that it's a very significant part of people's lives that they've been incarcerated. It's a very significant part of people's lives that they were doing the things that they were doing that put them in prison. And I think it's really important to be able to establish the kind of a situation and setting where you can discuss that and talk about it. It's part of healing. It's part of being able to move on. It's part of people being able to identify themselves as who they are, and to also give people or help people to see how far they've come from a very realistic point of view. If you don't acknowledge that people were using drugs, were in prison, then the fact that they've been able to live in a sober house without using for 6 months might not mean anything to somebody who owns their own home, but to somebody else who's been in that situation, it means the world. People have learned some really healthy things in prison. I think folks have learned how to manage some of their feelings and their emotions. I think that when they make that transition, people need to be worked with to figure out healthier ways of learning how to do that in the streets, in the community. And it's a very, very clear culture that has its own language, that has its own set of acceptable and unacceptable behaviors.
Prison is a community within its own self. Well, what you have to do is this, you have to do what you have to do to survive, which is, get in trouble or whatever you have to do. If you're all by yourself. But as far as with society, a lot of people I see a lot of people get the same mentality within prison and come in society and act the way they act in prison, which is not accepted in society. I had to catch myself fall back into they call it jailhouse mentality. Fighting and cussing and doing stuff that's not, society ways, not humane.
When they gave me that bologna sandwich, I would eat it silently, and that was it. And that's what I learned about being in jail, how to be. The more you not look at anyone, not pay to anyone, just act like you're invisible. And that helped me to survive.
Prison, just like, he said that there's a certain way, not that you have to act, but there's certain things you become like, you build defense mechanisms. Okay, some people try to go in there, keep them to themselves, and that don't always work. So you got to be ready for any kind of incident or situation, especially dealing with officers. You got to know how to get around them, because every officer is not going to treat you like a human being. A lot of them are going to treat you like, you feel like it's no different than 1861, than 2003.
I'm not good at tough and violent, but it's amazing how that can rise up out of your soul just about instantly if you need to. Because if you come across as too nice and too sweet, people are going to have you, doing stuff like getting up and turning the channel for them on the TV. And that kind of stuff, it starts there. People are measuring you to see, how much of a flunky can they make out of you. And then it gradually, I think if you're there long enough, it starts escalating into, oh, let me have some of that. The problem I find is that it takes you, even though I was only there for 3 days, it takes you a couple of days to kind of turn that off. When you come out of the street, it's like once you've brought up the tiger, it's hard to tone it back down.
In jail, you got to watch your back from so many different things. Got a lot of things going on in jail. A lot of things going on in jail. You know what I'm saying? For sex and drugs and gangs and what have you. Got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? Once you been inside them doors, where you're told to do everything, when to get up, when to sleep, when to eat, when to what have you, you know, it's a wake-up call to some of us.
And then there's also women that that do have sort of a hardened affect, and that can be from being in prison, or it can be from the lifestyle they were leading before, or both. And they've just found that serves them, it protects their families, and they may not be willing to let down that guard at any cost. So I think when you're working with women who are like that, it's important to recognize that it's really a survival mechanism for them, and they're not going to let go of it until they feel safe, and they may never let go of it. But I think as long as they keep coming and keep asking and keep working with you, that there's value in the work you're doing, whether or not they seem to, show appreciation.